Welcome to the second episode in a two-part Legendarium series about Duke Geoffrey of Brittany. In part 2, A Kingdom in Flames, we will talk about the catastrophic career of Duke Geoffrey. The Great Revolt of Henry's heirs began on April 15th, 1173, the first Sunday after Easter that year. Rebel lords loyal to the three heirs, young Henry, Richard the Lionheart, and Geoffrey of Brittany, marched from Maine to Brittany. The Earl of Leicester even landed in Suffolk with 3,000 Flemish mercenaries. By fire and sword, rebel forces ravaged northern France. However, King Henry II proved canny enough to realize that the rebels had too many leaders, so he gathered a force of 20,000 mercenaries from Brabant near Brussels to cow the rebel leaders into submission one at a time. This caused Geoffrey's resolve to weaken, but King Louis VII of France urged Geoffrey to keep fighting, to weaken his royal rival in England. Northern France became a lawless wasteland of burned crops and razed castles, through which armed bands of looters roamed freely. They especially targeted the church, with its vast land holdings. The so-called Great Revolt endured for 18 months, long as the French treasury could sustain it. In 1174, King Louis VII urged the rebel princes to make what terms they could with their father. Late that year, Geoffrey followed his elder brother's lead in making peace with their father at the truce meetings of Gisors, with King Louis VII now playing the role of peacemaker. Having bled his rival, he could now pretend to show benevolence. With the end of the war, Geoffrey returned to the gracious living and sumptuous feasts enjoyed by medieval lords, including boar's head for Christmas dinner. At the age of 22, Geoffrey became formally invested with his duchy, becoming the Duke of Brittany. He also married the Duchess Constance. Together they had 3 children. Eleanor, fair maid of Brittany, would live into the 1240s, Matilda of Brittany, who died at the age of 4, and Arthur of Brittany, who would be infamously murdered by his uncle, Bad King John. As Duke of Brittany, Geoffrey had a close relationship with Philip Augustus, the heir to the French throne. Of course, being the High Middle Ages, peace would never last for long. In 1183, Henry the young king rose in revolt against his father. Again. Once more, Geoffrey and Richard, ever hungry for war and the spoils they believed it would bring, crisscrossed Poitou and Aquitaine, ravaging the country terribly. Geoffrey became especially notorious as a robber baron during this time, giving his men leave to plunder churches and their lands with near impunity. His elder brother Henry, his allowance having been unpaid since he rebelled against his father, ordered similar crimes. Thus, young Henry's contemporaries saw it as nothing less than divine retribution when young Henry died of dysentery in the town of Martel on May 25, 1182. Their employer dead, young Henry's mercenaries plundered their way north through the Berry until finally stopped by a band of vigilante knights supported by enraged peasant militia. By the time they finished, the vigilantes slaughtered nearly 10,000 mercenaries, some still bedecked in jewelry stolen from churches. King Henry II also reconciled with Geoffrey, restoring him to the county of Brittany again, save for a few castles he garrisoned to ensure his good behavior. Untroubled by the slaughter and suffering their pointless Great Revolt brought to the people of northern and western France, Richard the Lionheart held an open house for those who wished to congratulate him on becoming the new heir presumptive to England, now that young Henry was out of the way. Now second in line for the throne, Geoffrey quit one war for a series of new campaigns in his home duchy of Brittany to regain castles lost to ambitious lords during his absence. These moves would be the first phase in a plan to re-divide the Angevin Empire, with John taking his mother's home duchy of Aquitaine, while Richard would receive England and Normandy. This gave Geoffrey the chance to get what he really wanted, not just Brittany, but the cherished duchy of Anjou. This time it would be his elder brother Richard who ruined things for Geoffrey by refusing his father's terms, which set the stage for yet another bloody family quarrel. In 1185, Geoffrey issued an assize at Rennes, regularizing the succession of military fiefs within Brittany to create a better feudal war machine, possibly to be used against his troublesome elder brother. Perhaps with an eye on a third revolt against his father and brother, Geoffrey spent much time at Philip's court in Paris, even becoming the French royal seneschal. As such, Geoffrey traveled to Paris during the summer of 1186 and participated in a tournament. On August 12, 1186, Geoffrey died when a competitor's horse trampled him underfoot. He would be buried at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, where his half-sister Marie of Champagne established a mass for the repose of his soul. At his funeral, the grief-stricken King Philip of France supposedly became so distressed that he attempted to leap into Geoffrey's coffin. However, scholars of his time, angered by Geoffrey's plundering of the church, invented a death they judged more fitting. They wrote that he suffered sudden chest pain after boasting to King Philip that he would lay waste to his father's duchy in Normandy. After Geoffrey's death, Henry II arranged for the marriage of his young widow Constance to Earl Ranulph of Chester. Though a skilled war captain, Geoffrey never won men's admiration as his elder brothers Henry the Young King or Richard the Lionheart did. Yet if Geoffrey had lived to see the death of his father Henry II in 1189 and the death of his elder brother Richard in 1199, he would have succeeded as King of England, and he would have brought with him an heir to the throne, Arthur of Brittany, who was, of course, murdered by his uncle Bad King John during the 1200s without his father to protect him. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.